lot of attention right now, with people analyzing their answers that the former president and former first lady gave in response to questions about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. How did they know him? Did they ever see or hear about any wrongdoing? When did they cut ties with the accused trafficker? We did this yesterday. Now we are going to do a deeper dive into all of the Clintons' explanations, and sometimes, I will tell you, it got a bit tense. Well,
years after the scandal first shook the world, the name of Jeffrey Epstein continues to reappear in headlines and public debate. This time, renewed attention is again focusing on his past association with former U.S. President Bill Clinton, a connection that has long been discussed, analyzed, and debated. The relationship between the wealthy financier and the former world leader has been part of the public record for years, yet each time new documents surface or old files are revisited, the topic returns to the spotlight, prompting fresh scrutiny and renewed questions. For many observers, the resurfacing of these connections reflects a broader public desire for transparency about the networks that surrounded one of the most controversial criminal figures of the modern era. A relationship documented in records.
Just happened. This is major. Lord Peter Mandelson, former UK ambassador to the United States, is now under arrest. British police announced Monday that a 72-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now, this is a little bit different than what we do here in the United States. So first, sometimes you have an arrest and then charges. We don't see official charges as of yet. And also, I will tell you what's different is the UK police, they typically don't name the subjects of investigations, but the subject of this particular case has been previously identified as Mandelson. And the way they describe it, I think you can put two and two together. However, I will tell you, despite the fact that the allegations against him are indeed or seemingly connected to Jeffrey Epstein, he has not been accused of committing any sort of sexual crimes or sex trafficking as far as we know, okay? The accusations, as far as we can tell, mirror those actually against former Prince Andrew. You see, Mandelson is accused of passing secret government information along to Jeffrey Epstein more than a decade ago. According to a statement from the Metropolitan Police, Mandelson was taken to a police station for an interview. There are search warrants that were served at 2 addresses in connection with this case. So I said that, he's accused of passing sensitive information to Epstein when he was serving as business secretary from 2008 to 2010. There are also allegations, by the way, of financial transfers that we'll talk about. Although, to be clear, we cannot confirm that this is in fact the basis of the arrest at this point. And to be clear, there's no charges that have been filed yet. But this isn't the first time that Mandelson has been in the hot seat. Not the first time that we've covered him here on Sidebar. He was fired from his diplomatic post by his boss, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, back in September. That is when the U.S. House Oversight Committee released images of a 50th birthday album that was put together back in 2003 for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday, reportedly by his on-again, off-again girlfriend, associate, now convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. And in his part of the birthday book, Mandelson apparently included several photos of himself and Epstein, as well as a note that said Jeffrey was his, quote, best pal, allegedly signed it, "Happy birthday, Jeffrey, we love you." I mean, that's backed up by this email from seemingly Mandelson to Epstein. "Nat mentioned you at lunch, and she erased my comment that you are one of my best friends." Now, I'm sure while those emails are important, I'm not really sure that's why he's getting arrested. Yeah, there's been questionable things, and I'll get into it, about the exchanges between him and Epstein. Like, for example, Mandelson had even seemingly or allegedly suggested at one point that Epstein's conviction for solicitation of a minor back in 2008 was wrongful and that it should be challenged. Now, of course, Mandelson underwent an extensive vetting process before he was selected to be the ambassador to the United States, but it's been reported that his prior ties to Epstein had been known, but apparently significantly downplayed. This is according to reporting like outlets like AP News. Now, like others who had been connected to Epstein or affiliated with Epstein, Mandelson said he regretted any interactions that he might have had with Epstein 20 years ago, swore he knew nothing about his criminal activities or his alleged criminal activities. But as more and more documentation was released by the Department of Justice, Mandelson's connection to the convicted sex offender was called into question. I'm going to give you an idea. I want to read you some communication. So you have this exchange from 2009, and it allegedly surrounds Epstein's release from prison, and this is after he served 13 of his 8.
The association between Clinton and Epstein is not a recent discovery. It has been documented in photographs, travel records, and public reporting dating back decades. During the early 2000s, the former president was reported to have traveled on flights connected to the financier while participating in philanthropic initiatives and international development efforts. Flight logs and archived reports from that period have been widely circulated and analyzed. These records show multiple trips connected to global charity projects involving public health and economic development. Supporters of Clinton have consistently emphasized that the travel was related to charitable work and international initiatives. They point out that no evidence has emerged linking the former president to criminal activity connected with Epstein. Renewed attention through document releases. Recent waves of document releases tied to civil lawsuits and investigations have revived public interest in anyone who appeared within the broader orbit.
I said young.
But it's still not true.
Is an intern young?
Yes.
Okay.
At my age, anybody younger than I am.
Did you
is
know
young.
Jeffrey Epstein instructed a witness to deny you were ever on his island?
He didn't have to, since I was never there.
And the former president had this to say when asked about whether current President Donald Trump should sit down for his own deposition, because as you know, Trump himself is mentioned numerous times in the Epstein files, and there are even uncorroborated allegations of him participating in sexual abuse.
We believe in the minority that President Trump should also answer this committee's questions. He's someone that is mentioned almost more than any other person beside Ghislaine Maxwell in the Epstein documents. And so to get more information for this investigation, was wondering if you also agree that President Trump should answer questions of this committee.
That's for you to decide, but he did know him well, and I once had a brief discussion with him about it.
Thank you. Thanks for the answer. With that, I'm going to go to Mr. Walkinshaw, and we'll go down a series of questions.
I hate this, but because I don't believe I should inject anything. But I do not want to leave the impression, but since there was no follow-up question, the president never, this is 20-something years ago, never said anything to me to make me think he was involved in anything improper with regard to Epstein either. He just didn't. He just said we were friends, and then we had a falling out over a land deal, property deal. That's all.
By the way, speaking of President Trump, Clinton talked about what he knew of Epstein and Trump's apparent friendship and what Trump himself told him about his, quote, great times with Epstein.
So then Donald Trump gave him the golf course in New York to have a tournament on, and I played in it a couple of times. And the day I was there, he would typically, Donald Trump would come out and play a few holes with us. And he somehow knew I had flown in Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft, and he said, you know, we had some great times together over the years, but we fell out, all because of a real estate deal. And he said, I'm sorry it happened. That's all.
Do you recall whether President Trump was the first one to affirmatively bring up the subject of Jeffrey Epstein?
No, but I'd be shocked if I did. I just don't do that.
Do you recall whether President Trump elaborated at all on the great times that he had with Jeffrey Epstein?
No, and at the time, I didn't put any, sexual spin on it.
And as far as you recall, President Trump characterized the nature of the ending of their friendship as being solely due to the real estate bidding.
That's what he said.
Now, Clinton also had to address the now infamous photo of him in a pool or hot tub with the other person in the photo redacted out. Looks very questionable. Well, Clinton explains that he believes this photo was taken in Brunei at the end of a long trip around Asia for the Clinton Foundation.
What we're trying to get at is some
of the financier. Even when information is not new, the act of unsealing or republishing records can create the impression of fresh revelations. Online platforms amplify this effect. Old documents can go viral overnight, leading many viewers to believe new discoveries have been made. The result is a cycle of renewed scrutiny. Public figures whose names appeared anywhere within the records suddenly find themselves back in the headlines. The importance of context. Legal experts frequently stress a key distinction. Being mentioned in documents or appearing in travel records does not automatically imply wrongdoing. High-profile individuals often interact with a wide range of people through professional, political, or charitable activities. In cases involving powerful networks, the number of overlapping connections can be extensive. Clinton himself has previously addressed the issue through public statements, saying he severed contact with Epstein years before the financier's later legal troubles became widely known. Representatives have also stated that Clinton
on Anthony Weiner's laptop in a folder that was titled insurance, life insurance, with a zip file titled frazzled.
This is way outside the scope.
Ruling.
This is way
within the
outside
scope?
This
Is this within the scope, Mr. Chairman?
If the chairman rules that it's not within the scope, I
Mr.
have
Chairman,
other
based on
questions.
what you said in the public hearing, is this within the scope?
We can go off the record for a moment.
Mr. Chairman, is this within the scope?
We'll go off the record.
One more part I want to address real quickly regarding Hillary Clinton. Things got tense when she brought up Republican lawmakers.
You know, I also find it very interesting because I went back and looked at the transcripts of all of your other depositions, and none of the Republicans asked a single question to any witness about Jeffrey Epstein, or any question that would help provide answers for his victims to any of the people you deposed. In fact, the only questions that were asked by the chairman to Attorney General Barr. And what were they about? They weren't about Jeffrey Epstein. They weren't about Ghislaine Maxwell. They weren't about victims and survivors. They were, General Barr, I may jump in for a couple of questions. Were you aware of the involvement of Hillary Clinton and the Clinton campaign in the Russian collusion investigation involving President Trump?
A deposition of Ms. Clinton.
Well, I'm just saying, you have kept me here for hours asking the same questions over and over again. I've given the same answers over and over again. Not a single Republican at any of your depositions has asked a question about Epstein or Maxwell. And it does seem to me that if the members were truly interested in getting to the truth, you would have asked Barr, Acosta, Wexner, you didn't even show up at.
Secretary, I believe we are very close to finishing.
Okay, now I want to talk about former President Bill Clinton's videotape deposition. Pretty historic to have a president testify under oath like this. Haven't seen it in decades, and particularly regarding this case.
On August 5th, 2025, Chairman Comer issued a subpoena for President Clinton to appear today for a deposition in furtherance of the committee's investigation into the actions and investigations of Mr. Jeffrey Epstein and Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell. Can the witness please state his name for the record?
William Jefferson Clinton.
Thank you.
And here is Bill Clinton's opening statement.
I'm here today basically for two reasons. First of all, I love my country and the Constitution, and I believe America was built on the idea that no one is above the law, especially presidents, and that we should all live by the same set of rules shaped by the Constitution. Democracy requires every person to play their part, and I hope that by being here today, we can bring ourselves a little further away from the brink and back to being a country where we can disagree civilly and search for the truth and justice, and that outweighs the partisan urge for spectacle and point scoring. I will do my part, and I hope you'll do yours.
Never visited Epstein's private island and was unaware of the criminal conduct that would later come to light. Despite those statements, the association continues to attract attention whenever the broader scandal returns to public discussion. The power of the Epstein network. Part of what makes the connection so widely debated is the nature of Epstein's social circle itself. The financier cultivated relationships with individuals across many fields: politics, finance, science, and entertainment. These relationships often developed through fundraising events, international conferences, and private gatherings involving influential figures. In such environments, interactions were not unusual. However, once the extent of Epstein's crimes became known, every association came under retrospective examination. Political fallout and public debate. In a polarized political environment, connections tied to major scandals can quickly become political talking points. Critics argue that all individuals who maintained relationships.
The second reason I'm here is that the girls and women whose lives Jeffrey Epstein destroyed deserve not just justice, but healing. They've been waiting too long for both. Through my brief acquaintance with Jeffrey Epstein, though it ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed during our limited interactions any indication of what was going on, I'm here to offer what little I know so I can do my part to prevent something like this from happening again.
And I will tell you, he had some thoughts about his wife's deposition, too.
I have to just say one personal thing. Since Hillary came in yesterday, she had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing. There's a picture of us both shaking hands with him in a photo line in 1993 at a fundraiser for the White House Historical Association. I don't know how it is under President Trump, but when I was there, it was about the most non-political operation you can imagine. There were people who loved the White House, who were interested in it, would give a little money every year to do things that needed doing around the house. And nothing nearly as extravagant as the ballroom or any of that, just things that had to be done. And neither she nor I remembered shaking his hand all those years ago. So I don't think that was right. On the other hand, I do think you should be talking to me. I think you should have called me. I did take those plane trips with him, and you have a right to ask those questions. So I'm glad to be here, and I understand what the oath is. I have to be honest with you. You know, I'll be 80 years old if I live to my next birthday. I don't remember everything that happened 24 years ago, but I do remember some things, and I will tell you what I remember as best I can. We, each of us, owe the victims nothing less than the truth and accuracy. We owe that to the American people.
Again, there is an argument that Hillary Clinton really wouldn't have much to provide or answer for with respect to Epstein or Maxwell, even though, by the way, Maxwell was a +1 at their daughter Chelsea's wedding, but it was really the focus was on Bill, right? It seemed that he had a lot to answer for. So this is where Bill Clinton talks about his first encounter with Jeffrey Epstein.
And you mentioned that your first memory of interacting with Mr. Epstein was on your first trip. Which trip specifically?
I'm not sure which one it was. Which one was the first? I took all or part of 4 or 5 trips to Asia and Africa and one to Northern Europe on Mr. Epstein's airplane. And once when I was in Florida, I was offered a ride back to New York, but I wasn't there it was just coincidental that he was there, and I think that was fairly early.
With Epstein should face scrutiny. Supporters counter that guilt by association undermines principles of fairness and due process. This tension shapes much of the debate surrounding Clinton's past interactions with the financier. For some commentators, the issue reflects broader concerns about elite accountability. For others, it represents the recycling of known information in a new media cycle. The role of media and social platforms. Modern media dynamics play a major role in keeping the story alive. Document archives are searchable. Historical interviews are easily accessible. Social media platforms can revive years-old material and present it as breaking news. Once a topic begins trending, Commentary multiplies rapidly. Analysts, commentators, and online communities revisit the same records repeatedly, each time offering new interpretations. In many cases, the renewed attention reveals little that was not already known, but the visibility of the discussion itself reinforces the
context for the public on whether you remember this photo and any details you may be able to provide us about it. So do you recall the details of this photo or recall the photo being taken?
No, I don't think I ever knew the photo was taken.
Okay, and for those who can't see it, it's a photo of you in a hot tub. There's a person next to you here. Do you remember where it was taken? Where was it taken?
I'm almost sure that this pic, and I think there's an adjacent photograph, which you probably have, that if people saw it, they would feel that someone was trying to con them showing this picture. But anyway, this picture was taken in Brunei. And we flew one night on a trip to Asia, the last very long leg.
You said we, is it, who is that including?
Well, my whole team that was working
Thank you.
on the AIDS issue, and Mr. Epstein was there, and Miss Maxwell. But anyway, we got to the end of the flight was Brunei. It's a tiny place, but a very wealthy one. And the Sultan of Brunei was a man that I had gotten to know well in my 8 years as president. And he said he wanted to help me with my AIDS initiative, and he invited me to stay there. And he said, I want you to stay at this hotel, and I hope you'll use the pool. So I did, and then I got out and went to bed exhausted.
Just for the record, there's another picture that also shows this as part of the larger pool area. Do you all have that so that he can refresh his recollection with respect to that?
You should have it. It's quite enlightening. If you watch this,
Yes, it's noted.
It'll
Yes.
give you a different feel.
Thank you.
Okay.
We don't have it with us right now.
Okay.
We do.
Thanks. I just
have
wanted
it
to
as
make sure he knew the
And so
context.
were there other people in that pool or hot tub with you as well?
I don't think there's anybody in the hot tub. I didn't forgotten that there was anybody in the hot tub, but it was big, but it was about.
Well,
He's asking in the pool
it appears
area.
this photo, there's a girl over here, or there's someone.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
But he's also asking in the pool area whether other
Yes,
individuals.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so you don't know.
No, and then there were other people in the pool.
Okay, so do you remember who, were they under 18? Would you
No.
know? No.
Were they part of your traveling party, he's asking you?
Yes, they were, I think. I think everybody there was part of our party. It was late at night and late-ish. And I also believe that there was a Secret Service agent there at the other end of the pool.
Okay, and was this in public?
No, it was a hotel room, and the Sultan wanted us to stay there, and the water, this big pool, was on the same floor that there were several suites, so we went out, I swam around, I sat in the hot tub for 5 minutes, or whatever it was, and I got up and went to bed.
And then I have to ask this, did you engage in any sexual activity
No.
with this person? Okay, thank you.
And of course, attention was also called to a photo of a young-looking female giving President Clinton a neck rub or back rub as he...
Perception that hidden details are still emerging. Survivors and the core issue. The testimonies of survivors exposed a pattern of manipulation and coercion that persisted for years. Their voices drove the investigations that eventually brought global attention to the case. While discussions about political connections dominate headlines, the underlying story remains one of justice and accountability for those victims. Transparency and trust. Public trust in institutions often depends on transparency. When scandals involve wealthy individuals and powerful networks, the demand for openness becomes even stronger. The continued release of documents and records reflects that demand. Courts, journalists, and advocacy groups all play roles in making information available where legally possible. Yet transparency also has limits. Privacy laws, evidentiary rules, and the protection of victims restrict certain disclosures. The reason the connection between Epstein and Clinton continues to resurface lies in the magnitude of the original scandal. When crimes intersect with powerful networks, the public naturally wonders how far those connections extended. Each new document release becomes an opportunity to revisit old questions. Did anyone suspect what was happening earlier? Could the abuse have been stopped sooner? Were warning signs ignored? These questions do not always produce clear answers, but they keep the conversation alive. A lasting shadow. The Epstein scandal has left a lasting mark on public discourse. It exposed how influence and secrecy can intersect in ways that obscure accountability. For political figures who once crossed paths with the financier, even casually, the association remains a topic of periodic scrutiny.